5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, I'm Dr. Cott. This is STEM Sunday again here for Mechatx. That's MECATX for Mechatexas. And we're here going to do a session on the eyeball. The reason is that we're talking about our book here, Microscopy, that just came out. So first I want to say a few things about the book. If you look at the book here, here's the book, and you can see that once you buy it for teaching, as I said before, you can look over other videos. These books are fairly unique in that they're STEM books. They're much different than the old style textbook or research book. So this comes off of Kindle, and it's got a version on Kindle is an EPUB version, and this is a version that you can buy. Now, what we advise, if you want to use it outside, there may be used outside with large print and in low light, such as for astronomy, low light situations. You can take it to either Office Max or Parcel, USPS, and you can have them do what we call cut off the spine and put a spiral binder on it. So it makes it in such a way that it falls flat. You can copy better, you can do more things, lay it on a table better and read it, especially from maybe a longer distance than usual. Another way to do it is to have them take it, and instead of put a spiral, you can have them cut the spine off and put 3 rings on. So now you got, again, another flat surface in a spiral that matches. Maybe if you've got a spiral binder for astronomy or for biology, whatever, you can actually put it in your book. So it can be used in various ways. So first thing we're going to do is go over at the back of the book, put the book in front. We've got various chapters or sections, and each section addresses a certain thing, such as small microscopes, large microscopes, and at the end we have about the eyeball, because you have to know some eye anatomy and some eye physiology if you're going to work in these two fields of microscopy or astronomy. So first thing we're going to do is go over an eyeball. So at the back of the book is an appendix with these drawings in there, so you can see that. So girls, pick up your eyeball. That's a model. That's called a model. And there's different ways to learn. This is what we call tactile learning. Tactile for people with low vision, or for anybody, is the more you touch things, generally speaking, the more you're going to learn it. So now look at the eyeball from the front. Look at it from the front, and you'll see in the front there, you see the color of the eyes. You're brown-eyed, or you're green-eyed, or you're black-eyed, whatever, you'll see the iris. And then behind the iris, you'll see a lens. So most of these models will come apart. So on the model, you'll see 4 muscles. Okay, 4 muscles that drive the eye. Now, if you can think about it, this is truly amazing. You've got 2 eyeballs, and you've got 4 muscles that have to be in sync every split second to give you the image that you want. About 20 years ago, I had an infection in one of my right eye. This muscle here had a virus infection, and I was seeing double. So for about 2 months, I had to wear a patch over my eye because I would see 2 of everything. So it's very important that all those muscles are working. Okay. So now we've got here, we talked about this. This is called the sclera. The white of the eye is sclera. Okay. So now you can take it apart. Okay, take it apart. Haley, take the eyeball apart. A little tricky. Okay, and look at the parts. The first thing you want to look at is the lens. Show the camera the lens. That is a convex lens. We've already gone over fairly thoroughly what a convex lens is. Can't you find a way to take it apart?
Oh, this one?
Okay. The lens is right in here. Okay. So, around the lens then you have muscles that pull that lens. So that's like a diaphragm on a camera. It'll stretch it out or it'll squeeze it up depending on how much you need. Then the iris will work too. So it's constantly working between bright light and dark light. So night sky is black. So bright light is very bright. So then you can see that the eyeball, look, the eyeball is in layers. Back here you have what we call the fovea. That's the important part of the eye. That's where all the stuff that you see is located, right in this area here. So you have what we call cones and rods. Okay, so you have some that see red, you have some that see green, and some that see blue. So if you look on the book, let me find that in the book. Girls, you have a book? Get the book.
We don't have a book.
Get the book out.
We don't have one.
Well, here, I'll give you one. And look there. The important thing here is to know where the eye sees and what you have to do with it to see it. So here's the drawing on the cones and rods. And if you look at the book very, very close, you'll see rods that are red, rods that are green. Look at the book. Rods that are blue. I'm sorry, cones. The rods are black. You'll see lots of black ones around the edge. This is why in astronomy and in some things they tell you do not look directly at it. The rods are going to look at black, dark. The cones are going to look at color. So at night, or maybe in some types of microscopy, dark field, you do not have color. Therefore, you have to look at maybe the image a little bit different. You don't use the center of the eye. If you look there, you'll see, I'm not doing a good job of showing that, you'll see the concentration of our green blue in the fovea. Then the further around it you get, you'll see the rods which are for black, dark. Therefore, that's what we call averted vision. You don't look directly at something, you look at it from the side because there's no color and the color receptors may start causing you problems. Okay. So now you can buy models, or for those of us in STEM education, you can 3D print it. So here you'll see, again, the layers. There's different layers, and the sclera, the white of the eyeball, has 3 layers just as within itself. And you can see we have a layer here that's white, that's the outside of the eyeball. We have a layer that's black, okay, that's for the pigment. You'll see black under the microscope. And then you'll have everything else. And if you look at your models, you'll see all the blood vessels. So you have arteries and veins that feed all this, the nutrients and so on, for you to see colors. Okay. Now, what we're teaching though today in microscopy is microscopy with video. So this is called video microscopy. First book written on this, a good academic book, was written in 1986. So you can see here 2 what we call medium size to large microscopes from Anscope, okay, with 2 different kind of cameras. This is a fairly expensive camera on this scope, and on the other scope you got a cheap one, costs about $35, and in some cases it comes with some of the smaller scopes that we showed last week. And then you take that and you have cameras and video now when you go electronics, which are HDMI out. This is an HDMI, high density media interface, okay, or you go USB. This is one of the idiosyncrasies of what we're doing, is your camera takes in video as a USB, but it puts it out as an HDMI. So the standard for working multiple video systems is HDMI, and then you can go up from there to more high power systems. But this is for the common user, the common consumer, the teacher in school, grade school or high school, maybe even a professor, until you move into a high power academic research lab. So this is a camera now that's got a I was trying to think of the words. Got the little disc in there, and usually they come in 5 MP, 5 megapixels, or 10, or maybe more. And then the cheaper little one comes with a lower power. So as I said, those are cheap. They come with the camera. And then what we want to do is make a network out of it. And that's what the girls are doing here. Okay. And you can see on the screen, the one on that side of the screen, Haley, point to it, the one you're working. Okay, that is a USB camera. You can see now you need to learn something about colors. Colors have been changing now since 1931, so it's fairly complicated. We also have a book available on color management. Okay, there's a million colors now. There's no longer just a few, like we had 12 crayons when we were younger and in kindergarten. So that's a one screen, and then on the other screen you see her. So move yours a little bit there so they see it move. Okay, no, I want you to move this a little bit so they see it. There. I want you to move it a little bit. Very, very gentle. Let me see if I can close the curtain and it will get any better video. I don't know if there's video, better video or not, but anyway, okay, girls, what I want you both to do now is, what you've got there is what we call a cross section. So in the world of microscopy, when you cut something, you can cut it this way, or you can cut it this way, or this way. So you kind of have to know, that's called a CS, cross section. So when you're looking at it under a microscope, you have to know, in most cases, the eyeball will be cut this way, a cross section of the eyeball. So then, what you know here, this is fluid in front and fluid behind, just like water, okay? In front of the lens and behind. So you have 2 compartments, fluid in front and fluid behind. So when you go to an eye doctor, he takes the pressure of your eye. That's what controls, just like water out of a faucet, how much the pressure is, how much fluid you've got, okay? So what I want you to do, look now, is take that, and this is where you learn how to do the microscope. You follow that around from here to here. So you got it. And this is in astronomy too. Things are no longer square, rectangle. Now they're circular. So basically it goes like this. So this is where your eyes and your hands have to become in a different way of following something. When the moon comes up, it goes across, it goes like this. So it doesn't go like this. Okay? So follow a line across and see if you can find the fovea, and then back to the lens. Look, look, follow it. No, then you're going to go from, if you're here, here, and here, you'll see the lens. The lens is big and it's going to be red. Front of the lens, and then in front of the lens you'll have a line again, and you have muscles coming down holding that lens at the top. Okay, so try it on your scope first. And just go very, very gentle. Follow that. Okay, there you are. Look now. Don't look through there. Follow it on the scope. You can follow it through the eyeball, or you can follow it through this scope. There you go. Now just follow it around. Up and down. Now you got to go the other way. Keep going.
No, she's talking about me.
Good. You're doing good. Keep going. Okay, now you're coming to a big bunch. Okay, now you got to decide what that big bunch is. Okay, we're not going to go over a lot of histology. We're going to go over the eyeball itself. So then go in front of it, behind it, follow it down, keep going until you find the lens or you find the fovea. Don't lose it. And then there you are. That's a lot of stuff there. Just stay there now. Back down. There. Okay, you see a lot of blood vessels. More than likely, that is the fovea. That's the part coming into the eye. That's where all the nerves are. That's where the blood vessels are. So all those little holes you'll see are arteries and veins.
This one.
And you can see there's quite a bit of difference in color correction. This is why once you start moving in more than one video device, and the switcher that we'll be using in the near future has got 7 inputs. So each of them may have a different setting, and you have to adjust the color. So it's no longer just, as I said, one microscope and so on. More than likely you'll be using more than one microscope, or they will be networked together. So you have to learn how to do color adjustments with the color books that we have. Okay. Now find the lens. Okay, go around some more. That's the fovea, so that should be the back side of the eye. Okay, that's good. That's the lens. Go back now. Okay. There, now follow the front of it. That's the front, a little bit more. Okay, now go back into the lens. Back to the red part, the lens, where you were. Nope, the other way. There, okay, no, go back. What I want you to do, there, that's, go back a little bit. Oh, no, I want, there. I want to see both. Go near the top of the bottom might be easier. That is a chamber. Okay, that's where fluid is. And there's the muscles on the bottom there that will pull the lens to give you the stretch and the shape that you want, depending on bright light or nighttime or so on. You doing okay, Haley? You can see the cheap camera over there is not near what this other one, despite the fact these microscopes are matched. So we're not using unmatched microscopes. These are matched. They have the same power, the same resolution, and so on. So this is a camera problem. So you can see, you know, there's a big difference between the two cameras. So you do get more what you pay for. This camera here we also have, which we may use the next time we do something like this. We also have one of these cameras that go USB. That camera is going USB into the laptop. Okay, and on the laptop we're using Zoom. So with that Zoom, we could be pushing that picture anywhere in the world. So somebody, a doctor somewhere, could be giving advice to a doctor somewhere else. The research I worked with was at NASA. on testing how to deliver microscopic medical care to people on the moon or the International Space Station. So that was in Arizona quite a few years ago, where we would send a picture from an Indian reservation to a microscope picture of blood or urine to Phoenix or Tucson and have the doctor there look at it. So you'd have a medical assistant or doctor, physician's assistant at the Indian reservation. And he could make the diagnosis, and then he could tell you what the treatment would be. So it's what we now are calling telemedicine and telehealth. So telehealth is more or less putting you in front of a camera and the doctor talks to you and sees you. And depending on the setup, he can look down your throat and see if it's raw and red, inflamed, okay? But telemedicine is where he can actually see your blood cells on a microscope smear. So these are all advances in the field of medicine, and we're also working in astronomy. So the microscopes are quite a bit behind the field of astronomy. So one other thing, I'm going to open the screen up again so we'll have a little bit more light in here. And what I want to show you now is the modern day microscope. They're multi-dollar, but there are some cheap ones out there for teachers and students. And these are called scanners. You can actually use a scanner like you scan paper on your printer, but it's not high enough resolution. So they make scanners that do have higher resolution. This one is no longer on the market, but you can see when you put your slide in here and it scans your slide. This is the newer one, just like that, made by a different company, but the principles are the same. The difference is here you put the slide in a tray, and here's the same slide that they're working with. So what they're seeing there basically is, I can find it here. And there it is in color. Okay, that's the eyeball that they've got in color. So,
Dr. Carr.
girls, look at that. So
Dr.
you see
Carr?
what you, that's the lens.
When I was looking at it, it did that.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
Sorry.
That's the lens, the sclera. Here's the muscles. Stretch this lens here and here. Okay. Here's on front. This is the chamber that we're showing you there. It's got water in it. This has got another chamber. This is called vitreous here. This is the fovea. This little circle here is what I just showed you, where all the rods and cones are here. So the rest of the eyeball does not see. Okay. So now to move back to the old way of doing that, when people colored. So you can actually turn that, right? You can turn that colored image into a black and white image, and then at the lower grades they can still learn to color, but they can actually do digital colors. So now we all have actually taught digital colors. We have one whole session, or hexadecimal colors, it's also called. So it's a way of coloring using the power of the computer with 1 million colors. So on here, what you see is you don't see what you see on the screen there. These are microscopes, so they're made for a better high power view of something small. So you have stereo microscopes, which come with what we call gross microscopy, where you're looking at the leg of a fly, and you'll see that in a book, a horsefly. There's a picture of that done with a stereo microscope and so on. But here, the best thing to do in teaching or for a student to learn histology is get one of these and look at it here first. Get the big picture, so learn it with the model, then go down here, then put it on a telescope, and then work your way up from low power, okay, up to high power, so 10, 10x, 40x, okay, and then maybe 100x. So work your way up. You will not see the rounds and cones until you get up to around 1,000 power. That's 100 times the eyepiece. So now your eyepiece will have on there what it is. It's a 10x wide field. So that makes it easier on your eyes. So if possible, buy them that have wide fields. Most of the time they'll give it to you now because most people want it easy on the eyes. So this 10 here times 4 here gives you 400, okay? Or 10 times 10 gives you 100. When you work your way up to 1,000, you're moving into another world. That's when the air gets in the way. You're no longer happy with air. Now you have to use oil, so there's no air between the objective and this thing. Then the next session that we're going to go through is various kinds of filters. If you look in the book, the next section in the book, this is called bright field microscopy. Girls, listen very close. Bright field microscopy. The next one is called dark field. So we'll be looking at the stars in the sky. Everything is black and some things are white. So you can see things a little bit better that are transparent. It's called dark field. All you have to do is put something in here. It changes that light. You put a little disc in here. You can 3D print it easily. Put it here. And now the only light goes through is around the edges. So that will be our next session on microscopy will be dark field. And then after that comes phase microscopy, where you're actually going to change the phase. We've talked about phase on radio, but we've never talked about it, I don't think, on light. But we actually change the phase and put it out of phase by maybe a quarter phase. Okay? Therefore, we need different objectives and we need different condensers. So we need a condenser that masses the objectives. So we buy those separate from the company. So if you have to have 10 power, you have to have a different condenser and different objectives. Then the next one, which the young people like and students like, is called polarizer. We're going to take the light and polarize it, and then all these little things that are black and white, okay, they're white now, just like you'll see in the sky. They all become colored. Just like when you look at the stars, we like to look at stars and say they're colored, okay? But they're minimally colored. You do that with the polarizing filter. So we're starting with the small microscope. Now we're up to the large microscope and bright field microscopy. Then the next chapter, as I said, is going to be dark field. Dark field is used mostly for what we're going to start moving into is living organisms, the amoeba and the paramecium. So we'll be studying those in great detail. And that's what you need for the water testing, water quality testing sites to make sure that the water is safe to drink. So we'll wrap up with that. We've covered quite a bit of detail, and we try to make these chapters so that when it comes up on YouTube, you can go to the part you want to review. If you want to review what we said here about USB camera versus the HDMI camera, that will be a chapter. So all you have to do is click on it if you want to see it. So thank you for watching, and this will be up on YouTube probably by Tuesday.